Hi, and welcome to another edition of CBS News. I am Benjamin Haidt. I recently saw the movie Jurassic World, which was a very exciting movie, but it got me thinking about whether dinosaurs could ever be brought back. So today we have Stuart Brennan to talk about de-extinction. But before we find out about de-extinction, Stuart, how about you define extinction? Stuart?
Now, extinction is a different kind of death. It's bigger.
Could you give us an example of extinction?
The Carolina parakeet was a parrot that lit up backyards everywhere. It was hunted to death for its feathers. There's a bird that people liked on the East Coast called the heath hen. It was loved. They tried to protect it. It died anyway. A local newspaper spelled out, there's no survivor, there's no future, there's no life to be recreated in this form ever again. There's a sense of deep tragedy that goes with these things. And it happened to lots of birds that people loved.
That is very interesting. Do you know who's trying to do de-extinction?
Passenger pigeon DNA had already been sequenced by a molecular biologist named Beth Shapiro. All she needed from those specimens at the Smithsonian was a little bit of toe pad tissue. This down in there is what is called ancient DNA. It's DNA which is pretty badly fragmented, but with good techniques now, you can basically reassemble the whole genome. Then the question is, can you reassemble with that genome the whole bird?
How?
So what you're getting is the capability now of replacing one gene with another variation of that gene. It's called an allele. Well, that's what happens in normal hybridization anyway. So this is a form of synthetic hybridization of the genome of an extinct species with the genome of its closest living relative. Now, along the way, George points out that his technology, the technology of synthetic biology, is currently accelerating at 4 times the rate of Moore's law. It's been doing that since 2005, and it's likely to continue. Okay, the closest living relative of the passenger pigeon is the band-tailed pigeon. They're abundant. There's some around here. Genetically, the band-tailed pigeon already is mostly living passenger pigeon. There's just some bits that are band-tailed pigeon. If you replace those bits with passenger pigeon bits, you've got the extinct bird back cooing at you. Now, there's work to do. You have to figure out exactly what genes matter. So there's genes for the short tail in the band-tailed pigeon, genes for the long tail in the passenger pigeon, so on with the red eye, peach-colored breast, flocking, and so on. You add them all up, the result won't be perfect.
Thanks, Stuart, for that wonderful explanation. I think that they should bring back an extinct animal that we have killed off, but I do not think that they should bring back an animal that died of natural causes, like the dodo bird or dinosaurs. There is also a difference between mass extinction, being most of life on Earth, and being a single species being extinct by humankind. Now we have a few scientists to ask some questions. We will first hear from Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil, are dinosaurs the only mass extinction?
There have been at least 5 major extinctions in the past 600 million years. Most of us have heard of one at the close of the Cretaceous, ending the reign of the dinosaurs.
Really? I thought that dinosaurs were the only mass extinction. We will now hear from Dr. Ward about the Permian period.
This is probably the most profound extinction of animal life.
That is very interesting, Doctor. Dr. Irwin, about how big was the mass extinction?
There's no other time in the last 600 million years that you wipe out 95% of all the species in the ocean.
So what killed these things? Climate change? Something from outer space?
One of the prime suspects is an ancient group of volcanoes, now dormant, whose remains lie in eastern Russia. Known as the Siberian Traps, these were no ordinary volcanoes.
Most people, when they think of volcanoes, think of Mount St. Helens or Mount Pinatubo. That's nothing like these volcanic episodes.
The Siberian Traps oozed lava for up to 1 million years, smothering an area about the size of the continental United States.
So this is very interesting about how many mass extinctions there has been. But what evidence is there to show about the mass extinction of the dinosaurs?
Find all the evidence for impact, and at the end of the Cretaceous we see this. We see lots of comet material or asteroid material, not to mention the crater, and least of all the craters.
So that definitely explains why dinosaurs are gone, but it does not explain if it is possible to bring back dinosaurs. Stroop Brand talked to us about de-extinction, but they needed DNA for it to work. In Jurassic Park, they got the DNA from a mosquito fossil, but that isn't really possible since blood DNA will only last for about 1.5 million years. Dinosaurs are a lot older than that. The most recent dinosaurs were 66 million years ago, so cloning isn't really possible since we can't get the original DNA. Some people might think of using selective breeding. Selective breeding is when we have animals with certain desirable characteristics bred to increase the chance of getting that characteristic. Let me give you an example. Once there was a chicken farmer, and he had 2 chickens. One chicken was incredibly fat and overweight, and he wanted to breed 2 chickens to get more fat chickens for more money. But the second chicken was not as fat and big boned as the first one. So he buys another chicken that is about the same weight as him. So he breeds the 2, and what happens then is when the chickens have a baby, that baby is really fat, almost as fat as the 2. In fact, more fat than the 2. And now this is going to happen every generation. So the more generations you can get between the 2 chickens, the fatter they're going to get every generation. Birds and a few other species do have parts of dinosaur DNA, but we could use selective bird breeds for 1 million times and it would never result in T-Rex. I'm not even sure how I feel about selective breeding of animals. Of course, it's not just animals we try to engineer. We have Bill Knight with us to discuss this further. Bill, could you give us an example of scientifically engineered food?
See, breeding food crops is a lot like a marriage or a wedding, a shotgun wedding, because the wheat doesn't have much say in the matter. But traditional breeding of food crops takes plenty of human intervention. Agricultural scientists have been tinkering with our food for centuries. That's why most of the food you eat cannot be found in nature.
Bill, that sounds like selective breeding, but with food instead of animals. Can you give us an example of genetically engineered food?
This is an organically grown papaya, a tropical fruit. This particular one is infected with the very common ring spot virus. Now, people eat papayas like this all the time. This is a papaya that's been genetically modified so that it has a tiny piece of the DNA from that very same ring spot virus embedded in its DNA. It's immune or resistant to ring spot infection. So which one do you want to eat? The natural one with lots of ring spot virus DNA, or the modified one with just a little bit of that very same DNA? It's the classic dilemma of natural versus modified. Is it good versus evil, or is it just another step in the march of agricultural progress?
Thanks, Bill. It's certainly a tricky subject. It's easy to see the benefits of genetically engineered food sources, but both plants and animals. It can help with world hunger and making sure there is enough food supply for everyone. However, as far as science goes, we won't have dinosaurs brought back anytime soon. Even if scientists use genetic engineering, it will be a guess since we don't have the original DNA. They will have created a monster that just looks a lot like what we think a T-Rex was like. As far as the movie was concerned, I give it a 4.5 out of 5 because the movie was super exciting and all of that, But it was also kind of scary. I mean, there's a helicopter that crashed down. There's a lot of killings. It definitely rated PG-13 for a reason. However, I think the science was not so great. First of all, Steve Brusette, paleontologist of the University of Edinburgh, said velociraptors were little poodle-sized things you could have as pets if they weren't liable to disembowel you. They also had feathers. Second, Dr. Brusette points out that the mosasaur was only 60 feet long. A great white shark is 20 feet. The mosasaur was about as size as a whale. In the movie, it was 200 feet long. This is a mosasaur tooth fossil. I still wouldn't want it in my pool though. Third, there was no dino DNA. Well, that's it for tonight on CBS News. This is Ben Hart saying, enjoy the movies, just don't trust the science. Good night.